going to tap his first tree. First we drill a hole in about 2 inches. He's got his helper, Savannah. Savannah, you going to help him pound it? Here, hold it in there so Luke can pound it. You hold it. Come over here. Over on this side. There you go. You hold it. All right, Luke, tap it in there. Hold it down here. All right, hold it right there. Watch your fingers. All right. Luke's going to pound it in until it stops. A little harder. A little more. A little more. All right, now show us how you put the hose on. Mark's going to grab us a bucket.
Yeah, push it up.
How do you do it?
Push it up.
Push it right up on there?
Yep.
Good job. All right, grab the bucket. He's got some holes drilled in his lids. And how's that go in there?
Slide it through the hole.
If you can, there you go, just like that. Now what happens?
Then you wait until the syrup.
Wait till it warms up and the sun warms the tree up and we got sap, huh?
Yep.
Good job. Okay. All right, it's been a few weeks since we first tapped our trees. Last time we had snow on the ground, and today we finally got a nice 55-degree day, and we're near the end of the sap boiling season. In fact, today is probably our last day that we'll collect. So we wanted to show you how we've been doing it. And once the trees are tapped and the sap begins to flow, they need to be checked sometimes every day, sometimes twice a day, depending on the weather. Been using our four-wheeler to actually collect the sap in the 5-gallon pails. Either we transport it in a 35-gallon drum, or we have milk crates that are zip tied together, and then from there we made a funnel out of a 5-gallon pail to help get it into our cold storage container. We pour the sap into the pail and let it drain down. During peak runs, we can average almost 2 gallons per tap, and we've got this container that we'd fill up. From here, we've got it hooked up to an actual 12-volt truck battery, and we're just using some garden hose with a lawn and garden type fertilizer pump that you can get from any hardware store. From there, we just turn the pump on and we pump it up the hose inside to the gravity tank, which we'll show you here in a bit. Okay, this is the barrel. You can see the hose up top that we're pumping into from our cold storage sap outside. We pump it up into this 55-gallon barrel, which we've rigged up with a ball valve and a piece of copper line. The whole purpose of this is to be able to kind of measure how much cold sap you've got, and it's kind of a preheater. It being above the pan, it'll heat the sap and warm it as you go, and you've got good control. By turning the ball valve here, we can adjust it wide open. We can quarter it away. We can control the flow of the cold sap into the pan, which is really kind of a key thing when you're trying to finish a batch of syrup. This goes into our pan here that we've custom designed. It's got really 5 bays in it, and it's slightly pitched to the end where we draw it off. So what happens is it takes about, well, depending on the sugar content, at 2% sugar, it's a 44-to-1 ratio. 44 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. So what we found out works best is that we take approximately 3 barrels, and we will get them into the pan, not all at once obviously, but we'll fill the pan half full. We'll bring the temperature up so it's at a nice boil, and we'll slowly let the sap flow into there. That way it doesn't stop the boil, it just kind of keeps evaporating. After we get about 150 gallons into there, then we'll slow it down and we'll start to finish the syrup. We've boiled down about 3 full barrels of sap. About 150 gallons is kind of what we figure. Now what we're trying to do, we're letting the syrup condense down in the pan. We've got our sap running at just a real slow drip to keep the pan from burning, keep fluid in there. Now what happens is with our custom pan and the fins and the baffles, it slopes slightly to the right side here where we're going to drain it off. The heavier sap floats to this end. You can see the nice marbly foamy color. I'm going to show you how with our doors here, we're going to slow that down a little bit because we know it's getting close to being finished. We close the doors and the boil will slow down a little bit. With this big a pan, you just got to be careful you don't have too much heat. You may have to add, you may want to have a gallon jug or something of cold sap just to keep from, if you do get a flare up. Otherwise, we've heard bacon, a strip of bacon will help the flare up, but with this big a pan, we're not really too worried about it. Right now, we're going to use a sampling jar, and we're going to fill it up. We're going to use this to test the syrup with our hydrometer. We fill it all the way to the top, and I'm going to go ahead and set it right in the pan there, so when I place the hydrometer in there, it should float when it's done. Now these are very fragile. You want to build a box or keep it in a safe spot, and you want to be real careful you don't just let it go. It will, if the syrup's not thick enough, it will drop all the way to the bottom of the pan. Or to the sampling can, and it'll break and shatter and you'll ruin a batch of syrup. So you want to be real careful. It's a nice tool. You can see we're floating. We're supposed to be at the red line. We're floating above it, which means it's a little bit thick. We can add a little more sap to it. With our pan, this is going to push it down. You can see these three end bays are foaming all the way back. So our guess is this bay, and this bay are all but done. Okay, now that we've tested our syrup with our hydrometer, we know that it's done. We've closed our doors off in our draft to slow the boil a little bit. Our sap is just kind of maintaining to make sure we have enough in this end. Now we're going to show you how we filter. This process, we've been told, and we found out ourselves, this is a hard, tedious, just takes a lot of patience filtering. The way we finish our syrup right in the pan, we're going to strain it and filter it right out of the pan. So we're actually using a filter kit. It's got a final filter, which is a thicker, more dense filter. And then we've got the pre-filter, and then we're actually filtering the third time through a t-shirt. Now, we just got a 3-gallon stock pot here that with some paper clips or metal chip clips that we're holding the filters on with. Small amounts, we're going to filter out between, anywhere between 2 and 4 quarts at a time. So we're just going to set the pan under there, and we know it's done, and we're going to let it roar out. We found best, we first tried doing it with a colander, and we found it's best to do it while it's hot and try and get the filters down as much as you can. The pressure from the fluid helps it go through the cloth. After we fill our pan for a little bit here, we'll take it up to the counter and we'll show you how we bottle and can it from there. Now that we've ran the syrup through the 3 different filters, we're ready to can it. We just use an extra coffee pot, and we're just, now that it's been filtered out, we want to can it while it's hot. I'm just going to transfer it into the coffee pot. It's got a nice spout on it. And then we're going to go right into our mason jars. You can use, there's all kinds of different cans, jars. We recommend you can it when it's hot. We're actually using mason jars now because we're all out of our bacon jugs. We're at about 120 quarts this year, and we only bought 80 of the plastic bacon jugs, which seem to work really good. So now we're on the mason jars, and you can see how clear the syrup is, how dark it is. Let me get it by the light here, and you can kind of see. You actually see why it takes so long to filter, because there's no imperfections. The filters catch all the grit, the sugar, sand, and it actually does a real nice job. We'll fill the jar. I'm just going to put a mason jar lid on it with a ring, and we'll let it sit upside down, and it should seal on its own. If not, you can freeze the syrup as well, and we're going to finish this and we'll take the rest of the batch off.
Thanks for watching. For more information on the products used in this video, contact Homestead Timbers at 616-677-5262 or visit us online at www.homesteadtimbers.com, or just simply click on the links in the description below.